I think for me, this is more fundamental. That Ingazi is that sense of hope. That every Rwandan youth or every Rwandan citizen, because it's not just for young people, it's also for adults who are in mid-careers, you want to do a career change, you can also go back to Ingazi. Irrespective of where you are, irrespective of your educational attainment, irrespective of your skill, there's hope for you. If you would take the initial effort to enroll and to participate and explore those opportunities. So in that sense, I like the word global passport. It's a passport to transformation. It's a passport to personal transformation. And I think I'm extremely enthused that already we have 30,000 learners on the platform. And I think for our friend from Education First, 30,000. So we have numbers in different places. Now we need to bring them together. And I think this offers us an opportunity to bring them together. For anyone who's taking the opportunity to read the National Strategy for Transformation 2, jobs and social protection are core in where Rwanda wants to go. Export promotion is core in where Rwanda wants to go. Productivity is core. Trade and investment. How can you engage in trade and investment and export promotion if you don't have the skills, if you don't have the knowledge and the capacities? So all of these revolve also around the whole logic of the NSC2. And so I think what I like the words that I heard about the interoperability of systems, because right now there are many portals, many incubation platforms. Literally every ministry has something. In the United Nations system, we have multiple. You heard already about my colleague from ILO, from IOM, UN Women to UNDP. So I already do have a challenge, and I'll come to that at the end. It's the interoperability and bringing them together. But this interoperability will be based on a whole of government approach. If we do have a whole of government approach, then all of us will have to line up behind that whole of government approach, because the whole of government approach elaborates the pathways that everybody has to walk to join that. And one of the great things that Rwanda has done in terms of the NST2 is that Rwanda is saying, if you're a partner and you want to help us on the big ticket items. Our coordination with everybody has to be on the big ticket, not on small tickets. The transaction costs for small ticket are too many. Big ticket create coherence, they create integration, they create scale, they create impact, and they create cascade effect. So it cascades across the economy. So I will leave it to the ministers to define how this should be transformed into a flagship on the NST2. Because what Rwanda is saying is we want to coordinate around the flagships, not around what each of the sectors are doing. Whatever the sectors are doing, it's okay. You have your counterpart ministry, engage at that level. But if you want ministers in the government of Rwanda, you want all the permanent secretaries, when we do our annual retreats, and our quarterly meeting at the Development Partners Coordination Platform, all permanent secretaries in Rwanda are present. Do you know how much of an executive time that is? Even to devote it for half day, 4 hours? So that half day, 4 hours must lead to something strategic, tangible, impactful, and big ticket. So if we want Rwanda to commit to continue to do that, it has to be at the level of the big ticket. And we are saying that those big tickets should now be framed around the flagships. Because under the flagships in NST2, they create cascade effect. So clearly a whole of government approach will be fundamental to making all of us line up. To have one platform that integrates and links everything else is not easy. I think the financial overlay is probably substantial, but it's probably a one-time investment that is worth the cost. So we need to factor that in as we go ahead. A one-time investment that is worth the cost, but then we need to think about maintenance and update of the platform. You talked about what you've already offered, and they need to link that, but even update it, and for others to even go back to continue to use it. I think what's also important is I know that as Africans, we love certificates, we love education, we'll have to have multiple certificates. So many titles behind their names, MA, BA, MSc, and all kinds of professional associations, some of which I don't understand. You have to go on the internet to find out what they mean. But I think what should be helpful here is some understanding of an assessment of the certification. Will industry, if you've gone through an Ingazi training or a linked training and you have a certificate of participation, but that training is for 6 weeks, what does it fetch you when you place it before an employer in an industry? Because once we have that, then it's easy for those with degree certificates to go back, because what we learn is hands-on skilling. That's what we need now, no more theories. And so in the context of that hands-on skilling, some initiative together with Mini ICT is when the minister talks about expanding the AI ecosystem. We got in touch with a university in the United States by a Russian immigrant that offers master's degree program in AI-related fields for free, online education. And we say, well, if you have an idea, the best place to test it and to show you can work because there's leadership is Rwanda. And so we invited them to come to Rwanda, and now they've taken the discussion forward with ICT. And the ministry is rolling out a whole ecosystem, and what it offers is 2 dimensions. There's one for policymakers, because it's important for policymakers in public service to begin to envision the future. Where will these lead us? How would we operationalize this? But the other is for practitioners, in terms of building systems, building robots and all kinds of things, and testing out the ideas that come from the policies. And then a whole set of trainings that will, flow from that. And I think we're so, now I don't need to worry, because the honorable ministers have taken it forward. It's now right on their docket. So we're playing just a supporting accompanying role. The other issue that I found fascinating after NSCT was adopted was the question of how do you create opportunities and incentives and careers for young people. And it's interesting, if you study the South Korean model, in one generation, South Korea moved from a very poor country to high income country in one generation. And it's important to understand what led to that. Rwanda wants to do the same in one generation, because Rwanda says by 2035 it wants to be middle income, and by 2050 it wants to be upper middle income. If today we are at about 1,200 GDP per person, now to get to 4,000, 5,000 in the next 10 years, that means you've done it in less than one generation. So what do we learn from the experiences of others so we don't reinvent the wheel? So I commissioned the UN Habitat, and I asked them, we need to come back to the government with some new thinking on a critical area that I have heard the president mention for my 3 years here, and he doesn't seem satisfied that all of us are working together to support the government on that, and that is on affordable housing. Now the housing needs are for 150,000 houses a year, and what we have now is not affordable. If it is at $45,000, $50,000, $60,000 a unit, you're speaking to only 6% of the population. What about the rest 94%? So Habitat has come back with a plan of action. It's actually doable, actually affordable, materials in Rwanda, some initiatives happening in the Eastern region with a company that produces material. Imagine what it does from a Ministry of Labor perspective in terms of skilling and training for the tens of thousands of young people in the industry. We have placed it now for government, both with RDB, but also the Rwandan Green Fund, in terms of the possibilities to do some prototyping and testing. But the second one then was, I went to the ambassador of South Korea, and I said, but you are here in Rwanda. South Korea has done fascinating work. You need to share that experience with us. So an event was organized about a month and a half ago, and they brought different partners from different institutions within and outside government on the South Korean experience. And what I found fascinating was the intentionality. The intentionality on the skill across range. The intentionality on different pots of money. The intentionality on early stage capital for people to test their ideas and prototyping, and the intentionality in early stage financing, the risk capital that most financial institutions will not get involved in because they are afraid of their credit rating. And so I'm hoping that the next frontier for the conversation between us and government under government leadership is a whole range of these conversations around this intentionality about the opportunities. And Rwanda has there are many things happening from the Innovation Fund and many things already happening in government, but it's bringing it all together in terms of a whole of government approach. It's not one fund, it's not one ministry, but there's a hook that holds all of them as we go together to address them. And I think under the with the Ministry of Youth and Arts, the youth strategy, but multiple parts of government. This is something we can take forward. I want to conclude in just 2 quick points. The Minister talks about digitalization. It's unbelievable, the frontiers and the possibilities. I won't even speak to these, because it's not just about the skills, but the technology and the uses, and how it brings government close to people. Well, and then on corporate social investments, I like that, because I've had that chat with the MTN MD, and we began talking, both him and I started talking about an idea on, we need to move beyond CSR, frankly. I agree. It's started by Kofi Annan, and he's become a top UN speak, and we even have a full UN agency that's focused on this. And essentially, it's all about the 10 business principles. But it has to be much more than the 10 business principles. Private sector is investing in the SDGs because they know it's good for the bottom line. There's an ROI. So we need to move beyond the 10 business principles to talk about sustainability. What is it that makes the business sustainable? Because you're investing in the social ecosystem, but those investments create new customers and new clients. I'm very happy to hear this, and I'm going to take it forward with you in terms of the MTN leadership, because him and I have talked about this, and we agree we need to move forward very quickly on this. So what is it that we bring as a United Nations system? I need to close on that. What we bring is the platforms and the ideas that help broker these kinds of conversations. The United Nations of the past focused on grants you got from donors to implement projects. And I'm always the first to say this: no country developed on UN projects. UN projects are proofs of concept. Whatever we do is small scale, is testing the ground, is to give confidence to all kinds of partners, national, private sector, community groups, that this can work. But you can't anchor your national development on UN projects, which means that our value proposition has to change. And it has changed in terms of our new 5-year plan with the government of Rwanda. That the new 5-year plan is for moving from funding to financing the national development, and UN being some kind of architect or spoke that helps trigger multiple things. And it doesn't matter where the money ends up. It doesn't need to go to the UN. It can end up directly to national institutions, but there's a role for us to play to accompany and support national partners in driving this agenda. And there's a lot I can talk about this in terms of the specificities, but I don't think we have the time. Just to say that all of us are now ambassadors of Ingazi. Actually, I didn't need this meeting to define whether I'm an ambassador or not, because this is a chat we've had with the ministries and multiple platforms. But what I feel a little more challenged now as head of the United Nations system in Rwanda to work with all of my colleagues. And thank you, UNICEF, for the excellent work you've done in helping make this happen. I feel more challenged. We have to bring our entire system together. So when government says whole of government approach, I want to say to you, whole of UN approach behind the whole of government approach.
Wow. Thank you so